to kick us off with the Q3 incentives. I think it'd be good to just go over the final calculations and let people know where the sheet is so that they can audit the results, ask questions, and make sure that everything is calculated correctly. Um,
Sure.
so
Yep.
yeah,
Just give me one sec here. I'm gonna grab the link and post it in the chat.
tweet. Yeah. So context for those that don't know, and those that do know. I guess it's good to just give context. So every quarter, we release some amount of the treasury and retroactive rewards to each of the projects. So the way that we do this is we basically do a coordinate within each of the projects to determine how much of each project's rewards go to each contributor, and then we basically do like a DAO wide coordinate between all of the projects where basically one representative from each of the projects called a rocketeer, who also sits on the Senate. They review all of the other projects based off of their impact and final reports, and then they give a suggestion among all of the projects as to like what they think is the proportion of rewards that should go to each project. And then what you guys might have already seen is on Snapshot, we let every member of the DAO vote on the distribution that they think is most accurate, or accurately reflects what they think the DAO should be funding. And yeah, so it's a cool like quarterly ritual where we basically thank each other, and it's like a gift giving circle. And yeah, a lot of our rewards for Moondao come through this process. So yeah, I'll hand it over to Mitchie.
Cool. You guys can see my screen?
Yep.
Cool. So yeah, this is the main sheet where most of the action is happening. You can see here we've got our contributors and our projects here represented by their codes at the top. These ones that I've highlighted are uh, the delegates on the proposal, and I highlighted them because we had to factor those in to reward them for their 2% cut before, and then scale the rest of the figures down. But you can see each row adds up to 100. Over here, we've got everyone's MVPs in DAI specified here. So everyone, if there's any discrepancies there, let me know. But this is all double checked against the project data. And then the only person to receive a MVP in Mooney was Bollock, and that was from the video project. So and that was an older one. So it seems like people aren't getting any MVP in Mooney. We may even, I don't know, might want to consider even just like not having that as an option. But I don't know. I'm not trying. I don't want to open a can of worms there. um, let's see. So the actual, well, Pablo, should I walk through like the whole the whole process, or should I really just jump to the distribution amounts? Like
Um,
the
it could be good to just quickly give an overview of how the calculations took place, because yeah, I think
Mhm,
it's important that all of this, like the way that we're calculating all of this, just follows like a step-by-step process that's in our project system that we all voted on, and this is just following through with the calculations. So um, I think it's important for everyone to review the calculations and make sure that they are correct, or at least have an idea of like where to look in case they're wondering about their own calculations. So things to double check are definitely that we've input the coordinate results for your project correctly, and yeah, I think
mhm,
it's just worth it to remember that we're human. So um, mistakes can happen, and over time we've been automating this process more and more, and hopefully we'll have a fully end-to-end automated process in the next few cycles of this. I think we've reached a pretty stable pattern with
mhm.
reward distributions, but yeah, it'd be good to just kind of quickly give a high level overview of like how everything works.
Yeah, I won't go into the details of the whole iterative normalization process, but we did calculate the math here. Pablo did this manually, and we wrote a Python script to handle it, which came to the same results. So these were the final results that ended up get posted on Snapshot. That's in the iterative normalization calculation tab here. This sheet, team distribution, this is where we've just cataloged all of the distributions within each project. So you can see the total amount of give received for each person on each project here. And that was the normalized. This is, yeah, sorry. We can skip over that. Here is the actual results that we got directly from
Hey,
Snapshot.
Mitchie, can you change your streaming settings to make it better for text? Isn't there a setting for that? The compression is just killing it unless you stay on a page for like 10 seconds or
really?
more. For me anyway. I don't know if it's like that for anyone else.
I'm not sure how to change those settings.
Yeah, you can just increase the frame rate. It should be enough, I guess.
Here, it's at 60. Resolution. No, it looks like it's. I can put this on source, but I don't know what that.
Okay, it must be my end. No worries.
Oh, sorry.
I see
So-
the link too, but yeah, it's the link is also in the chat if you want to follow along.
Yeah. Anyway, in the snapshot results tab, that's where we have the actual results from Snapshot. Full disclaimer: when I put this up on the Snapshot, we did a copy of the last round just to make sure that the formatting and everything stayed the same, and I didn't remove two of the options. So there was like RD 8 and 9, I think, or whatever, two extra Rocketeer choices that didn't match up with anything. But the only people who voted for those were these people who voted for one across the board on everything, which essentially just works out to being a total average. So it didn't actually have any impact. Here's the process results from Snapshot, where we've just taken out, these numbers, like if it's one here, that equals 50-50. So these are just the same results, but reformatted basically. And then in the end, you can see down here we're taking we're calculating the final distribution amounts. Taking these percentages of voting power to each distribution, putting them over here. We're summing up these columns, and then the amount to each project is the sum product of this by this, which gives us these final amounts. And then using, one second, these, sorry, no, these figures here for the distribution amounts, you can come in here and check to make sure the formulas and everything make sense as well, but these are our amount to be distributed. I'm sorry, this is the sheet I meant to show. It's the same results, same numbers, with the amounts to be distributed. Then we figured out these numbers. So this is the total to distribute to each project. Here's the total in Mooney to distribute to each project. And from there, where is it? All right. Sorry, I'm lost. I moved some of these tabs around.
Also, some of the tabs are like worksheets for some of the calculations. So it's worth it to maybe also hide some of the the complexity, because some of these, for example, ETH CSV, Mooney CSV, those don't
Yeah.
necessarily need to be reviewed. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, these are just the formatting of the payments so that it's easy to basically queue them all up at the same time. Where's the sheet, Pablo, where we've calculated the amount to go to each person? Oh yeah, sorry. Geez, it's right here. The Q3 projects. Yeah. So yeah, in the end, here's everyone's final DAI amounts, and here's everyone's final Mooney amounts. And yeah, I'm open to
I
any
noticed
questions.
that the total DAI and total Mooney don't match to the Mooney and ETH to distribute. Or it's what,
That's because
12.8 instead of 15?
yeah, so that's because like for example, Pablo got a $5,000 DAI MVP, so that would be subtracted from it.
The Mooney final. Okay, that plus the MVP add up to the total
Yeah.
distribution. Got it. Thanks.
I am noticing one small thing that I think needs to be added, which is that each of the signers also get 1% of the project rewards for the proposals.
Do they?
Yeah. So that'll need to be added, but it's a small thing. It'll probably
Okay.
change the values just slightly. Yeah.
Yeah, well, at least I know how to do it now.
Mhm.
Sorry, I didn't realize I didn't know that was a thing, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. It's to incentivize people to actually read the proposals and sign them. So I get, a little bit of a tiny reward for doing that.
Okay. So I guess these aren't the final figures, but when we do have them, all of these things are calculated like dynamically. So even these final transaction sheets that queue everything up pull all their values in dynamically. So we can put in the amount of ETH like just before we send out the transactions to make sure that's whoops. Yeah, correct. Um, and yeah, so I'll do those calculations here tonight after the meeting.
Sweet. But yeah, good work. Yeah, it's a pretty big undertaking, and yeah, I think we should all thank Michi for you know crunching all these numbers. But yeah, hopefully over time we get this more and more automated, less and less user error. I think the Python script is already a big step in that direction, and I think that at the end of the day, what we're inputting into the system is just a bunch of CSVs, and then the output should just be like the values that get to people. I think we're close to the point where we can fully automate this end to end, but
Mhm. I've
yeah.
been thinking about that a lot going through this process of like what are the like it is just a process of like compiling information into a like just a mapping, right? And then if we can throw it into a script like we did with Python, then we could do that same type of method for the rest of the process. And um yeah, really reduce there's potential for human error at every step in this process, and there are a lot of steps. And so, yeah, I'll be very happy when we get this mostly automated.
Sweet.
I guess as well, when considering the core contributors, we figured those out before doing the 2% to delegates and 1% to signers. So, but I think it's better that way, and I think we should just keep it that way. I don't think that like you should maybe be considered for the amount of rewards you get for just signing. But if that's contentious or if someone disagrees, then let me know. But I think it's pretty straightforward to handle it that way. But congrats, Lucas. Lucas was our top contributor.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I was kind of surprised, but yeah, on that same track, I have a question about the vMuni distributions. We talked a lot about this, on the project last quarter, with everything that happened, and the whole bunch of work there is doing those distributions manually. So I kind of came up with a fast proposal to just centralize things and having one person, to delegate to everyone to take, I don't know, 1 or 2 days. I put it up in on the same thread of the. No, I created a new thread in Senate Review, so maybe it could be cool to discuss that and how are we moving forward with Mooney distributions in general. Are we keeping vMuni or I don't know. I know that we discussed a few options, so it could be cool to discuss with the Senate.
I
well,
think. Sorry, go ahead, Mitchie.
No, I was going to say something that I think you were going to say what I was going to say. So go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna say that we should definitely keep it as vMuni. I haven't had time yet to read the vMuni vesting proposal. So yeah, maybe we should read that through. Yeah, and then discuss it together as a Senate. Maybe next week. Unless if we all just want to sit here silently and review it together all at once. But yeah, I could definitely see the motivation behind having just one operator doing all the transactions. But yeah, there's always a risk that one person just runs off with the Mooney. Not that I think that would happen, but it's a risk. We shouldn't. Crypto is these tools are made so that we don't have to rely on that sort of trust and so. But that being said, it was like tons and tons and tons of transactions being signed in order to pay out for vMuni. So yeah.
Is there just a thought here? Is it possible to, like, when we vote in a proposal, like when we approve a proposal, that a contract can get set up to automatically release the stuff so a person doesn't have to do it at all? Or it sounds like that would be a lot of work, I'm just kind of, I don't know, but is that like how things could work in the future?
Totally. Yeah. That's the hope with all of these systems that we're setting up, is that eventually, as we find something that like is a stable sort of pattern that makes sense, then we can just automate it entirely through smart contracts. But yeah,
That's like phase 3 and we're on phase 0.
yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've run the first manual experiment with it last quarter, and so now it seems like we've learned a lot from that, and then I think as we probably will take a couple more cycles, and then we can do it totally automated. But yeah, I'll have to read this proposal, Lucas. Haven't had time yet.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, I think that the main thing is, how to mitigate the risk. So I put some things up to maybe mitigate that centralization risk. But yeah, it's time versus decentralization, right? and the amount of effort as well. So with the current system, I estimate that keeping everything as we've done last quarter, it would take a week or two to run all the Vimuni payments. So yeah, I don't know. I'm good with both options, but
my one thought, so I just opened up the proposal and read it through a little bit, is that we could probably like run it with say there's 12 million Mooney that's being distributed out, and so we could do it in like 1 or 2 million Mooney chunks, so that we're only ever trusting one person with that amount at a time. So in the case that there is some issue, like yeah, like
yeah,
someone-
kind of the same that we did with last quarter actually for the bridge, right?
yeah,
But yeah, executing the full cycle.
yeah. I think just what we want to avoid is a lot of what happened last quarter.
Yeah, totally.
Some if we trust one person, it's not only that they run away with the money, but for example, they could get sick, or they could there could be some issue along the way. So yeah, but yeah, I think this is it makes sense given our previous experience to maybe not run the whole thing through a 4 or 5 multi-sig. Oh, Ryan, you're breaking up for me. Are you guys able to hear Ryan?
No.
No.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. Let's discuss this proposal async. So yeah, it came in just right before the meeting, and then we can
Yeah.
vote on it next week. Yeah, leave some comments and all of that. Cool. Ryan, yeah, still can't hear you. Okay. Well, I think that's basically it for the Q3 distribution. So, yeah, we'll get those updated figures from Michi, and then yeah, get the final values for everyone to review later today.
We'll post in the co-working.
Sweet. Cool. All right. Next thing on the agenda, yeah, I just wanted to give some high-level updates on the onboarding and sweepstakes project. So we're aiming to have the full onboarding flow put together aggressively by beginning of November. But yeah, we're working hard to make that happen. And then yeah, the sweepstakes team had their first week last week, and so yeah, it's been moving along. We've got some really great people working on that project, including Elijah, who's in the audience, and so yeah, that's exciting. We've more or less finalized the sweepstakes rules, but that's been kicked over to Blue Origin now, so we'll get those reviewed. And yeah, just kind of wanted to give a super high level update to people here on the progress with those projects, because I know they're very important to us all. So cool. Didn't mean for that to be a long update, but we've got some other exciting reports and updates. So yeah, Justin, I don't know if you have anything like prepared or anything. Phil offered you up as we'd get a bit of an IAC report. You mentioned a little bit last week, but it'd be cool to yeah, hear what
And
what
some of
was
the
in
other stuff too. You in your weekly progress, you list a lot of meetups and stuff like that. I'm excited to hear about it.
Yeah, sure. So Azerbaijan was good. It's a pretty incredible city. Built up, I think mostly on oil money. Walked along the Caspian Sea, and you can actually smell the petrol in the air. But yeah, the cars are nice, and the buildings are nice, and the conference itself was well orchestrated. yeah, different attendees, I think, this year than normal years. Just because the location, there was a lot of representation from Turkey and from India and Japan and China. Yeah, I presented on the blockchain and how it can be used to finance space projects, and some of the ideas I have around using the blockchain for property rights management, and space traffic management, and debris. Some if you're familiar with how carbon credits work, I think we're going to do something similar probably with space debris credits. There's already organizations that are getting fined for leaving satellites up there that aren't supposed to be there, because they're in potentially dangerous orbits. So yeah, I talked about MoonDAO and the history of DAOs a little bit in the presentation. Probably about 30 people in the audience. I didn't see a camera, so I don't think it was recorded, but yeah, it was well received. There was a couple questions afterwards. Yeah, I wish I had more time. I only had 10 minutes to present, but yeah, if you're interested, the paper is posted in the Space Channel.
What was the response? Like, I know, like, this is the forefront of, it's not mainstream, I guess, right? So what was the response? For people coming to it cold, or were they already familiar with DAOs? Like,
I don't think there was a huge number of people that knew what DAOs were coming into it. A lot of the people obviously have heard of cryptocurrency before, but as far as helping people understand decentralized autonomous organizations and how we have smart contracts that facilitate voting, I think a lot of that material was new to most of the attendees, for sure. But yeah, got a chance to connect with a lot of space people, and yeah, there was a Yuri's Night party that was a lot of fun. They had an Apollo astronaut there, not Charlie Duke. It was another Apollo astronaut. Yeah, Space Generation Advisory Council had an event with Planet that was good. Yeah, met the current SGAC administrators. They were happy about our donation, and yeah, not sure. Might end up giving maybe another presentation sometime this quarter at one of our town halls, if people are interested, where I can talk more about the report I wrote, and yeah, and what I talked about in Baku, if people are interested. Let's see here. I also spoke on MoonDAO actually on Monday at the DC Startup Week event. It was a panel. I was on a panel with two other DAOs and a facilitator. There's probably about 50 people at that event. Well, there's more than that, but we weren't the only stage at the event. There's probably, I don't know, 400 people at the event, but our stage had maybe about 50 or so. Yeah, they asked a lot of questions about the DAOs, what's changed kind of in the last year, some of the lessons learned, and where we're headed. I talked about yeah, we had to adjust our spending according to the economy, and yeah, at the end of the day, most DAOs are probably going to fade away if they don't find some kind of product or service that they can provide. Is kind of my take on the situation. We're pretty lucky that we still have a treasury. There's a lot of DAOs out there that don't have treasuries anymore, and so yeah, talked about our upcoming ticket to space that's available, and the 0G flight that I'm going on next week, which I'm pretty excited about.
That's really exciting, man.
Yeah. And then, yeah, just other space stuff. I mean, there's a lot of things in the DC space community there. NASA had a small business workshop that I attended last week. And yeah, the German Space Agency had an event. And yeah, if anyone else is in the DC area, we are going to have a speaker come from the International Space University Space Cafe. She's a friend of mine. She works at NASA headquarters on Mars sample return. Yeah, I don't want to take up too much time. This is kind of a update on some of the stuff I've been working on. But yeah, I got my ticket booked for Houston, so I'm pretty excited about that. I've got some swag I'll be bringing for people. Yeah, I couldn't get any funding out of the Space Games Federation. I was probably just gonna go to like a hardware store and buy a rope and see if anyone wants to play the rope sports game that they recommended that we try. Basically, you just make knots. You're tethered to the other person with the rope, and you try and make a knot during the 40 seconds of weightlessness that we have during each of the parabolic arcs. Yeah, I don't know. Talk to people who have been on 0G flights. I guess it can be more chaotic than you'd hope, just depending on the number of people that are actually on the flight. But yeah, I think it's an experiment worth trying, just to see if we can't, yeah, make some knots while we're weightless. I think that sounds cool.
Really exciting. Thanks for the updates too. You probably I work at Planet, and I think some good friends of mine we're at IAC as part of SGAC, so we probably our circles are merging.
Yeah, no, I could post some pictures. It was a really nice venue. It's called the Landmark Hotel, and yeah, it's really downtown in the old town. Yeah, I'll post a picture. A picture is worth 1,000 words, and it's a pretty cool city. Yeah, that's all I got. Yeah.
Sweet. Thanks, Justin. Yeah, tons of updates. Cool. I guess we'll send it over to you, Phil. Really excited about this presentation.
Yeah. So two things. One, I swear after this, I'll stop talking about this freaking lunar comms thing. But the other thing is, I've only presented once before, and it was to my mom. So we submitted. This is the presentation. I put the files, the PDF for this presentation, the 10-page paper, and the 3-page abstract in the chat, and I'll be putting them on our in our Obsidian vault, which gets synced to GitHub and everything. So it's on my to-do list to do. But yeah, so I'm going to go through these slides, and these are the slides we wrote within. We started them 18 hours before the deadline, so it's a little bit rough in places. But
Phil, do you mind if we record this this presentation? Because I think it'd be great to have this. It's
I don't
just,
mind. Yeah.
Sweet. Maybe Ryan or Michi, would you guys be able to do a screencast with Loom or something? Or whatever you guys have. I think that's a yes from Ryan.
Yeah, I can do it too, just in case.
Okay.
Just give me 1 sec.
Can you see my screen okay?
Yep.
Great. Apologies in
let us know
advance
when you
if
got it,
dog
Michi.
complaints.
Okay, here we go. And we're recording.
All right. So this is just a 20-slide explanation of our proposal to DARPA's Luna 10 solicitation. Specifically, we adapted our work on lunar comms that we're doing for Moondao, and got together with some other folks that were working on similar concepts, and framed it as PNT, positioning, navigation, and timing infrastructure for cislunar ecosystems using a few public domain technologies, so research and open source technologies that exist today. And to be cheeky, of course, we have to have a backronym, the Cislunar Open Clock Synchronization System, or CLOCS. So from Moondao, it was me, Pablo, Greg. We had Jacob and Rachel from Open Lunar Foundation, Ramon and Felipe from Added Value Systems, or AVS, Ahmad Bayagawi from the Time Card, which is a part of the Open Compute project, and lots of contributions and help from Nobu Shiga, who is the primary author on all these wireless two-way interferometry things. So just want to give a shout out to everybody else there. I think I forgot some people, but yeah. So just to set the stage for what we're looking at solving, positioning, navigation, and timing is critical for mission operations at the moon. So specifically, we're looking at timing as this piece of it. It's involved in navigation, orbit determination and ephemeris, communications, and interacting with other missions, as well as just getting commands and collecting data from the moon. Two interoperability standards, LunarNet from NASA and Moonlight from ESA, are published and generally accepted by a lot of missions looking to go to the moon. Both have a stipulation in there that a precision timing signal will be available. And once you have it, here's what to do. But neither of them define the source of that timing signal. So in order to have a scalable and accessible timing framework, we're going to use today's technology to get there. The main focus of our proposal, or I guess a cornerstone of it, and all the organizations involved in writing this paper, is democratization of services. And not only does that improve access, but it also catalyzes coverage, distributes the capital investments across the population of missions that are going to the moon, basically as they go. So just some fundamentals here. Wireless communications are how spacecraft communicate with each other and with Earth. So it's a given that every thing that goes to the moon is going to have wireless comms. We're going to present a method of precision timekeeping using those comm signals to achieve sub-nanosecond timing synchronization and sub-millimeter ranging between the two nodes, as a way to maximize coverage and resilience of such a PNT service. And we're not pitching a competition here with lunar global navigation systems like GPS, but for the moon. That's been the kind of de facto standard of what everyone assumes that will eventually be at the moon, is that sort of GPS-like constellation of satellites that you just need to get an antenna and you get your timing and ranging. What we're proposing is distinct, but not, it doesn't replace that kind of service. In fact, it complements it, fills in the gaps, and also does so as a bottom-up approach that grows with the population. So the first person that's there doesn't have anyone to really talk to, right? But as more people go and more people go and like land on the moon, go to orbit around the moon, the service grows organically, and we don't have to do this thing where we're operating without anything until finally the last piece of the GNSS constellation is there, and then all of a sudden you have all the coverage, right? There's no the current paradigm is really binary in that sense, and here we're presenting something that grows gradually. And lastly, democratized capability makes decentralized service models viable and incentivizes that interoperability that LunarNet and Moonlight are promoting. So the basis for wireless two-way interferometry, or YY, is that it uses the carrier, the phase of the carrier frequency for a communication signal to, it compares the, I should just read what's on the slides here. Assuming two nodes, like a satellite and a ground station, or two satellites or whatever, have precision clocks and their wavelength is stable, their frequency is stable and not drifting over time. When those two nodes talk to each other, they can compare the phase of the waves, basically like the distance from peak to peak in their signals. And if we have the precision to measure that delta t to the nanosecond level, then from, velocity is, or position is velocity times time. The velocity of light is a constant. We measure the delta t, so we can, just by measuring that delta t, get the distance between them to 3 millimeter precision or better. So the reason why you would compare those two that phase to get the delta t is because you want to sync them. When you sync a clock, you want to just remove the delta t, and then both of those clocks are in phase. The clocks are synchronized, and since you compared and got the delta t because you wanted to remove it for your timing signal, you got the positioning, the ranging for free. That's the simplest way to put YY. It's been demonstrated on the ground, demonstrated in mesh networks and between buildings on Earth to measure with this level of precision. It's been great. But it's not just a cool technology. It's the fact that all of these missions have comms, wireless comms, all of them. And so if we can measure the distance between them and also synchronize their clocks together with the existing equipment, basically all you need to add is this capability of timing, like having a precision clock, and then you can get all of this instead of having a fancy receiver or a whole separate signal path to do things. And so it's not like it's nobody's doing it, but that doesn't mean that it's novel technology. In 2019, YY was demonstrated with commercial off-the-shelf components on a Wi-Fi network. Time card, which is currently under review as an IEEE standard, is a PCI Express card that can plug into your desktop computer and do sub-nanosecond timekeeping. The hardware and software for that is both completely open source. Clocks, like actual oscillators that can keep precision time for the level that we're assuming it would need, those exist. You can buy them just on the internet. And as far as ConOps, like concept of operations here, two-way time and frequency transfer, which is kind of the foundation of YY, was demonstrated with spacecraft between two clocks across the Earth in 1991. And as far as decentralized networking goes and decentralized framework to exchange services for networking between peers. In 2021, Helium launched and successfully commercialized a decentralized machine network for internet connectivity on Earth. So let's take it to the moon. This is just a slide to say what I just said because we didn't get to present this, we just had to send it. I'm going to kind of gloss over these. These are some technical details about the time card. The time card itself is there's this CSAC module, this big shiny box on the card. That's the clock itself. The rest of the card is there to support that clock and also enable that 10 megahertz signal and the pulse per second signal out to other things. So it lets other things talk to the clock and synchronize with it. And it also has radios to be disciplined by GPS when we're on the ground. So it's already set up to do all the things that we're looking to do. And it was actually used as a core piece of the YY things. They actually work together with the time card folks. So yeah, YY is a thing. It's being commercialized in Japan. It's cheap, it's so far it's been performant. The only thing is we haven't done it with things on orbit. And when you're getting to orbital speeds, it's orders of magnitude different than driving a car down a highway, right? Which is basically the level that we've seen here in these experiments. That said, in the parking lot, YY experimentally demonstrated comparing two clocks with a precision of 2.2 picoseconds and measured the distance between them to better than 1 millimeter, which is insane. And lastly, Felipe from AVS basically did his PhD in lunar GNSS. So he derived like how much it would cost to put together a lunar GNSS system as our baseline, right? So there's DSN, Deep Space Network, which is how we currently communicate with lunar missions. Making some of these assumptions, the operating cost is $3 million for fiscal year 2022. Whereas if we had an 8-satellite lunar GNSS constellation at the moon, it would cost instead on the order of $350 million. What we're proposing is to take that one step further, and instead of waiting for that 8-satellite lunar GNSS and having one operator have all these costs, each little mission would contribute a little bit and incur about $5,000 of cost to implement the clock. And so as far as like making this a commercialized service, Helium is really our case study. So here, this is just a slide showing that like YY needs precision in the nanosecond, picosecond range. Time card, PNT, in order to be used at a mission on the moon, needs about that thing, that precision, and time card provides that precision. So we're good, right? But we want to this proposal, the actual work, was to prove it. And we would do that using an agent-based model where each little dot has its own clock, has its own trajectory, and has its own communications frequencies and communications range. And so you put a couple of those around the moon and see how things go. You put tens, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands in all these different orbits. And since we would control the simulation space and we would have visibility into each of the agents, at the end of it, we can do statistically significant analysis to see, okay, in general, how synchronized were these agents to each other, to the real like universe time, how much bandwidth did they have exchanged, and things like that. And since it's just like a framework, and we would set up these agents and set up these instrumentation points in the simulation, we can do this decentralized YY thing where everyone's talking to everyone else and they don't really have a lot of range, but you know, do they have this level of precision? Or we could do the GNSS thing where there's a few transmitters and then everyone else is a receiver. Or we could see how things go across the population with both of those concurrently. So we put together some metrics here that we would actually use, like quantitative metrics that we would use to assess the performance of lunar GNSS versus decentralized versus a mix of both happening at once. And we could see how that would scale with the number of users. And this is what I just said. So where we would take that insight is to basically make it a baseline mission profile for our own little constellation to seed this service. And then also the hope would be that this would lead to an open source design for a time card that's built from COTS components under $5,000, and any mission could easily incorporate it into their mission. Market analysis, there's lots of money to be made here if that's what you're into, which is what DARPA was into. But also like this, even being open and public and open source and decentralized, there's still a lot of opportunity for individual actors to set up their own infrastructures. Maybe somebody has like a tiered network where you can get their baseline crappy but free service, and then if you pay, you can get millimeter level precision or better, for the premium users. That's totally possible and enabled by this kind of framework with the same satellites and not having to send different hardware and not having to send a different protocol. And similarly, this kind of solves the scaling problem where you don't have to worry about, as the population grows, naturally it supports itself better. There's more routes for messages to take. There's more access to someone providing the time for you. And, the networks would kind of self-organize and get basically benefits from this kind of scale instead of just suffering congestion. I firmly believe that we can demonstrate that this works, and like in LEO, in low Earth orbit, just two CubeSats talking to each other. Maybe they're in different orbits, like orbits that cross each other, so you can see if they can exchange timing and ranging and synchronize their clocks when they're far apart, and also when they're moving very fast relative to each other. With the satellites in orbit, you could see what the performance is like to synchronize to ground stations. And with more than one CubeSat, not only do you get the satellite to satellite interactions, but you also have two opportunities to see how the time card works in space. So obviously scaling that up would be great, but with a minimum of two CubeSats, probably take like $3 million, a year and a half for a university to build it from COTS components. It could absolutely demonstrate all of the core technology that we're showing here. And then we would have already done the agent-based modeling to show that it would scale. And that's it. That's all. That's everything. So it kind of depends on participation, really, and population. And we haven't done it in space before, satellite to satellite. The core technology has, but not in this way. And, like we would be proposing a time card which would provide this capability. Obviously, anyone could remix it or make their own completely from scratch, and it would be totally compatible. But in general, speaking from experience, it is uncommon for precision clocks to be flown in space. Like most satellites just have a GPS receiver, and then their own clock is like a 5-cent part. Even if they had a $20 part, it could be enough, honestly. At least to be a receiver instead of a provider or a peer. And when missions cost millions of dollars, an elaborate setup, or I guess a performant one, like what we're presenting or proposing, $5K compared to $3 million for the whole mission, it's a really easy win if it's just integrating this for free and then using the other equipment that you would already have anyway. So yeah, this scales. It complements lunar GNSS. It doesn't compete. It democratizes the capabilities, incentivizes interoperability, and makes decentralized service models viable. We can do this with simulation to completely instrument and predict how things would work in a number of scenarios over time, in different potential scenarios where the lunar ecosystem grows. We have core metrics, and it's not just performance, but it's also mission metrics, cost, timeline, tech development, everything. And this is totally doable. Like I am 100% convinced, and I'm really excited to keep working on this with Moondao. And our other contributors are super excited for it too. So I'm really excited to see how this goes. I know that was long-winded. I didn't mean for it to get that wordy. But yeah, we had some limits here, a paper that was limited to 10 pages plus references and 20 slides on that. So read it at your own leisure. Happy to talk either in the Lunar Comms chat, space chat, whatever. And I'll be putting this on the Obsidian.
That was awesome. Loved it. Great presentation. So excited for this tech. I just think it's just so awesome how many people contributed to that too. Phil was like just orchestrated like a dream team of like amazing contributors.
Yeah,
so.
we're still in touch. So we've talked about how the process of writing it went at length. So I don't want to spend too much time on it, but yeah, we're still in touch with all the contributors, and we're still like throwing around different proposals that we can apply to. So I'm so excited. I'm just like jumping out of my skin here.
We're decentralizing the moon. But actually though, I mean, this is like a man. Like the more I hear about this, the more like we tinker on this idea. It's just it's so perfect in so many different ways. Just feels so right that this is like the work that we're doing at Moondao. So yeah, it's awesome.
I think that's the last topic. So open floor.
Cool. And I'm disappointed that your mom wasn't as excited as we were.
I know. She was excited for me.
Not everyone. Yeah. Not everyone nerds out on PNT. So yeah, that's fair. Cool. Well, yeah, open floor. If you guys have stuff you want to throw out there, now's the time. So feel free.
Yeah, I just want to say I'll be well. Actually, if I could get everyone to send me an email that they have signed up on Telegram, that'd be great. I have the emergency broadcast group set up. So basically, it's just for like emergency situations where Discord isn't accessible.
Or when
or-
somebody accidentally exposes the whole org to a phishing scheme.
Yeah. So
Sorry.
set up. Everyone, just please send me an email, and I'll invite you in. And yeah, just please only use it in emergencies. Yeah, that's my only announcement.
All right, folks. I'm gonna
Cool.
go. We'll talk to y'all later.
All right. Yeah. Talk to you guys later. Bye, y'all.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.